Why don't we'll start with some intros here. Caela, do you want to kick us off with some intros while we wait for our final panelists?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Caela Castillo. I am the director of CX at Jackson. I've been there for 3.5 years now. I'm excited to talk about CX with all of you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexandria Collis, Senior Director of Operations at Princess Polly. Have been with the brand about 5.5 years. Started prior to us launching our U.S. operation, so have seen everything from the launch of the U.S. operation to opening our first brick-and-mortar retail store last year. So very exciting things. I'm very excited to be here today.
Hey guys, Ronak Shah. I'm CEO, co-founder of a brand called Obvi. We're a health and wellness brand focused around collagen and making collagen fun, tasty, sexy, and not unflavored again. So one of the big focuses for us this year has been we rolled out nationwide to Walmart, Rite Aid, and a couple other retailers, and how to kind of fix this transition from going D2C and being 100% D2C native to now also including retail. And then those are a lot of challenges even on the CX side through that. So excited to share.
Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Kevin Gould. I'm a co-founder of 2 different brands. One is called Glamnetic. It's a press-on nail and eyelash brand really focused on DIY beauty. And then the second brand is I&H Hair. It's a hair extension and hair care brand. In terms of the biggest challenge, I think for us, it's now that I think we're kind of in the same boat as you guys, where over the last couple of years we've expanded a lot in retail, and it's amazing because we've kind of got this omni-channel footprint now. But I think making sure that we're keeping cohesive customer experience across all the channels has definitely gotten harder. We're now expanding overseas, international, in the next couple weeks here in the UK. And so it's really like there's so many touch points, and how do we make sure the teams are like really interconnected and the comms to the customer are cohesive. So that's been really our biggest challenge.
Awesome. And thanks, everyone. Kevin and I were a second late here, so appreciate your patience. I'm Justin. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Gorgias. Prior to Gorgias, I was with a direct-to-consumer brand called Nix, K-N-I-X, based out of Canada. So I was lucky enough to be there when we scaled from under $100,000 a month in sales to over $5 million a month in sales. So super cool to be back in the D2C community, building tools that I didn't have when I was there. So we were on Help Scout and Zendesk when there was no Shopify integration, 20,000 tickets a month. Whole company would dive into the inbox to try and get it to zero. So try to keep the morale up and make it fun, but really cool to be at Gorgias where we can build tools that can solve the problems that I once experienced myself. So we have an awesome panel here today, and we're going to dive right in kind of into one of the scarier topics. So there's obviously a big push for the adoption of AI in CX, and it's coming with a lot of different sort of things that people have to think about. So, we have concerns around brand integrity, potential of job loss, and other risks. So I'd love to hear from the panel here how you're thinking about AI and how it can enhance your team instead of putting them at risk. So we'll start with Caela.
Yeah, I think, AI is something we've always been really excited about, but it's something that can also bring a lot of fear and unsurety to both your office team, your CEO, everybody else who's a shareholder, and then as well as your agents on your team. And that's something that, we've been beta testing AI agent for the last month, and my agents have come to me multiple times and saying, is this, is my job at risk? Am I going to be replaced? Are we going to be cut in half? Things like that, where I've had to say multiple times, your job is not at risk. Like, this is an amazing thing, and here's how it's going to make your job better, the team better. And just being able to reassure them in this new phase of AI that AI is going to help take away the mundane tasks, the things that we know, they can do. Why would they want to do them, though? Why would we want to answer another Wizmo question? We want our agents to have engaging, authentic conversations. So I think it might take a little bit of hand-holding for a while to explain it's going to be okay. But then really go into deeper, why is this great for your team? And so for me, I'm not afraid. I want my team to know they shouldn't be afraid either. And you just got to take those steps to reassure them.
I guess I'm next. I'm really excited about the prospect of AI across the entire organization. Specifically in CX, I know it was mentioned this morning, ways that, whether it's around ensuring, quality, to look at and then allow allowing your agents and support teams to be able to spend their time doing other really important things, right? Some of what we've implemented at Princess Polly since being inspired, and that's what I like to think of. I think AI will help inspire ideas. And that's what I think is really cool about where we are. I'm excited in 10 years to look back and listen to these panels about what everybody's talking about when it comes to AI, because it's going to transform businesses, but specifically operational efficiencies within businesses, right? So I'll give an example of in our CX teams, right? If there is a ticket that comes in or there's a Wizmo question, it allows our team to kind of hone in and almost go back up through the rest of the operation and fix problems. That's where our resources can go, and it empowers and helps to retain talent. I think in a lot of ways, it's the perspective that you have on it that will either transform and make or break the organization.
Yeah, we actually had like a lot of trouble with this piece. And I think the Gorgias team, especially Milagros, can attest to it. We're a really small team. We're only 10 people. And so when you go and impact one person's job with very little information, it becomes really tough to make them mold to something new. So when we kind of brought AI to them and as an idea of like, hey, this is what you guys should look at or consider or utilize, the first thing is human nature is like, well, what the hell's going to happen to my job? And if you take this away, what can I do? And I think everything kind of just stayed stagnant for a bit, where it was like we didn't pursue the AI agent and some of the other advancements in AI, and especially for CX. And then eventually, I think one of the things that I shifted to after getting some good recommendations from founders was create a roadmap of what that time that's going to be now opened up for that person, what are they going to use that towards? And so one thing that we did was for the two CX agents we have, we basically told them with the time that you're going to save, because AI is going to be doing a lot of the redundant work that you guys are doing currently, we're going to turn you guys also into half sales agents. So gave them their own code, let them basically use their code to save a refund from happening, let them use a code to upsell somebody. And obviously, we monitored it very closely so that no one's kind of getting carried away with it. But it really created like a completely new shift in their mindset, which was like, oh, wow, cool. You're taking away something from me, but you're actually elevating my opportunity. Before, it was just positioned as you're just taking something away from me. And I think that was a poor job on my part. And I think giving a roadmap to when a change is going to happen, super important.
I think first off, I really like your nails. This is all I do now is just look at nails all day.
I wish I could say they were.
I know. I gotta
good,
figure this.
not.
I really like the design though. Ron, yours aren't as great.
You can take a photo of them after if you want, Kevin. I did customize this with a
I was really looking at those. I think I agree with all of the points you guys said. I think the same thing when we rolled out AI, and we've been really working closely with Gorgias, I'd say the last 4 or 5 months. Roman, the founder, thinks we're going to get to 70% automation. I think we're at like 25% right now, and that's improved from 5% like a few months ago. And I think for us, it's about we've said the same thing. We don't have any plans on like cutting anyone on the team. What I do think from an operational standpoint, we probably aren't going to add many new CX agents if we can automate more. But I think all of the things you guys said about figuring out where time can be better used is super important. So we do a lot of like surprise and delight gifts with our customers where, we'll pick five to 10 customers a month and like send them random kind of surprise gifts that have nothing to do with the brand. How can we leverage that and like, lean into the human personal touch more? We also do a lot of, like, we think every customer interaction isn't just for customer service, it's like a prospecting channel. So how do we arm the human side of our CX agents with looking into how can they hopefully like upsell the customer or just interact with them? Because I think one of the big things we've seen is that any interaction we have, whether positive or negative with the customer, we have a higher LTV on any customer that's been talked through on Gorgias. So I'm in agreement with pretty much all the points you guys have, and we're super excited about it and very curious to see if we can get to the 70%. but without losing without losing the personal touch. So what we're looking at is not just like, can we automate it? Does the CSAT score of an AI automated interaction stay the same as a human interaction, which is really important.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. So I think this leads nicely into the next topic. We had Harley on earlier. Harley likes talking about unobvious strategies in business. So to pull from something that happened to us at Nix is when I first joined, the business had most of the inventory going to wholesale. And that's what was really feeding the business, but it was holding up the inventory from going online. So things were pre-bought, it was safe, the business could make money. And we did the unobvious thing at the time to kind of say no to our wholesalers and no to like big shopping channel networks and put everything online, and that really changed the trajectory of the business. But at the time, it seemed unobvious. Our board told us not to do it. They were scared of the risks. So Alex, you talked about kind of inspiring and really thinking about ways that you can inspire your team. Love to hear from everybody what's kind of an unobvious strategy that you put in place and what were the results of it and how did that help to potentially improve online experiences? So start with you.
Yeah, so partnerships. One word, singular, partnerships. We have team members that work hand in hand, week on week, project roadmaps that we have with our partners. So with Gorgias, for example, shout out to Tony and the rest of the Gorgias team. We're constantly evolving. It's not, and I know that this is such a cliche thing to say, but it's relationship building, right? It's relationship building with your partners, ensuring that they care as much about your brand as you do. And that's something that in the last, my 5.5-year journey, that I would argue is one of the reasons why we have been able to scale so quickly. We've worked so closely in building right when there is, I mentioned operational efficiencies. When there is an operational inefficiency, we address it with our partners as well. We let them know what's going on at any given time, and in order to better support the customer experience. And it's not just about your customers that are making purchases from you. It's about your internal employee experience as well, and ensuring that your employees are at the top of mind, because your customers are only as happy as your internal team. So ensuring that you have, and again, to kind of speak on like what we've leveraged, it's those partnerships, it's the ability to empower our team members to make decisions. It's why when people join our business, why they get so excited and passionate about what we do, because we spend time with each individual, on their roadmaps, to your point about, what does it look like for them, because that's what they're thinking about in their growth and development. So those are kind of some of the unobvious ones. I think we could talk a lot about like what we've done from a UX perspective, but those are the internal ones that matter so much that may not always be top of mind at an executive level, but really important, and executives actually really do care about these things because it's what helps you scale quickly.
Yeah, Ron, go ahead.
Cool. So ours is a little bit like really weird because we have about, especially this year, about 25 to 30% of our traffic and sales coming from Reddit. Like Reddit and TikTok and Minecraft videos, right? So it's like super weird because these customers are watching these like really weird videos about like with overlaid stories of like somebody's traumatic experience before they found Obvi. And then they're buying right away, right? And one thing that we learned was the CX tickets that were coming into our Gorgias help desk from people who bought from Reddit was far different from the CX tickets that were coming from people who bought from our Facebook group or just Facebook ads. And so I think one thing that we started doing, which was super helpful now, is we started to ask when we're responding to the first initial inbound, is where did you guys hear about us? And we all do this with post-purchase surveys, but I think there is an element to surveying even in your help desk, whether it's through just asking them right in the email or some sort of response format, because understanding where they come from also changes the behavior of what they expect. For example, people buying off Reddit Minecraft videos, they probably don't even understand our product or what they bought. They just related to that traumatic experience and buying from that. So I think for them, what we respond with obviously is still taking care of the ticket, but we'll also give them extra material. Like if you're new to Obvi, check out our community. It has 100,000 women on Facebook group. Also check out this FAQ section if you have some more questions. And like the material starts to become a little bit more personalized based on the channel they're inbounding from. So I just think try to incorporate understanding where they came from within your help desk responses too, because we do it on post-purchase for a reason. So I think it carries to CX as well.
So we haven't done this yet. I don't even think our team knows we're doing this yet. But this is something we are working on doing. I think that every person in the company actually needs to be in customer experience for a day. So it's kind of like the whole undercover boss thing where the boss used to go undercover. It's like we want to figure out, it's probably a little bit easier to do with new hires because when we bring in a new hire, it can just be part of their onboarding. They work in CX for a day. And then we want to do the same thing eventually with every single person in the company where they have to jump in and really understand the questions that are coming. Because this stemmed from like kind of more macro, but even bigger picture just across the company. I started doing pop quizzes with the leadership team about because everyone's so in their department. Like if you're the head of CX or you're the head of ops or the head of retail, you kind of are in your lane and you sort of know what's going on other sides of the business. But I think it really opened up everyone's eyes when I kind of did like it wasn't meant to embarrass anyone, but like a pop quiz on just general business metrics and what's happening. And a lot of the leaders realized, wow, we actually don't know a ton what's going on in the other departments. And so that kind of spurred the idea of, okay, well, how can I, one, drop that down across the rest of the company? And then two, when it comes into CX, like everyone should have touch points with the customer and understand where they're coming from. And so we are going to be rolling this out as like a Q3 rock. And I'm really curious to see how it goes.
I think you should ask them what your return policy is and see what people say. Ask somebody in like finance, what's our return policy?
Totally. I bet, and to no one's fault, I bet 10 to 15% of the company might know the return policy, just as someone might have zero clue how much revenue we do from a retailer a month. Even though we do all these meetings and talk about it, I think just there's so much information for everyone to take in now. It's hard, to kind of get out of everyone's own lane and work cross company.
No, I think these are such great points because, just a lot of what we do in CX kind of is hidden, most of the time. We are able to share our KPIs with our team, but there's the little, anecdotes that you're able to share that it's like, wow, you get questions like this, or, people bring this up. And I think that's where it's like bringing in that human element, because I think every brand, we can agree that you're like, who is our customer? Here's our different types of customer. And you have this little, kind of a story for them. But I'm like, did you know, this kid's mom, she shops with us. Her son lost his chain. It was a whole ordeal. We had a whole conversation about, kids. And I'm like, let me help you through this. And like, let's get him set up with a cleaning kit and all these things. And I'm like, do you know that moms are calling us? And I know, because that's not the typical customer. Or maybe times when like we've had customers tell us they're getting married and I think they just want a shout out or something. And it's being able to share those little stories that, I guess I don't share them every day because it's like we're going through thousands and thousands of tickets. But, somebody should hear those conversations that happen. And it gives you a wider, a more rich story of who your customer is, and maybe those types of people that you never thought were shopping your brand, or that took the time to have that phone call that follow up in multiple emails because they want that reassurance, or they just want to talk to you. So I think being able to share that with other departments on your team really does give a much richer story, and I think that a lot of people can learn from that.
Thanks very much. That's perfect to the next question. But before we go there, Kevin mentioned something which is an interesting maybe tidbit. He referenced something called the ROC for his Q3 planning. If anybody's looking for an operating framework to help manage your business as you scale, the one that you guys use is Entrepreneurship Operating System, which is amazing for keeping everybody rowing in the same direction. So if you're looking for one, definitely check that out. And it's kind of leading into the next topic of, we have so much information that comes into CX. Obviously, if we can leverage AI, we can free up more of our time. I'd love to hear some tips for how you effectively get the information that comes into CX into the hands of other departments, because it's one thing to say that it's there, but how do you actually get the attention of the other departments so that they can learn from the front lines of what customers are saying? So Ron, let's start with you.
Yeah, so like I said, we're a pretty small team. So what we do is we have weekly all hands, and we require one person from our main manufacturer and one person from our 3PL to join the all hands, because the all hands is where we have a pretty large, like, systematic way of going through the different things that we need to go through. But part of it is like, what are the challenges of the week? How are we going to tackle them? And I think one thing I realized was, like, some of the challenges doesn't just happen just like having miscommunication within your team. Some of it is like from the outliers, right? Like, oh, product delays or shipment delays from the manufacturer. Or the 3PL, it's Juneteenth and the 3PL is not working today, and the team didn't know, or why didn't shipments go out, or why isn't someone responding? And so this kind of like involving key people from other parts of the system that can cause failure, I think is super important. And I think the way we pitched it too, to make it worth their time, was we basically told our 3PL and our manufacturer, like, we'll pay you on your hourly rate to come and join us once a week. And I think we end up spending like $400 a week between the two parties to come and join us. But that's like $1,600 a month, and I think I've probably saved thousands and thousands of dollars of confusion, right? Cost of confusion is very hard to know because everyone's on a different rate of confusion. So I think that piece has been super critical for us. And then I think having a small and lean team helps. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't, but for the most part, that piece isn't as relevant for us sometimes because we all are in office. We don't have a remote culture, so just go to the desk and tell the person that it matters to as well.
Cool. Alex, I know you guys have a bit of a larger organization, probably a bit more complexities. How do you feel about it?
So I always say customer experience is the heart of the organization. We pump blood and deliver oxygen to vital organs of the business to help them thrive and grow stronger. It's something that we started, 5 years ago when we launched the US operation. And, it's anything from, getting feedback on product. 'Cause here's one thing you have to know about Princess Polly. It's primarily a Gen Z demographic. So there was a conversation about Gen Z in the last keynote. And, one thing that is so true is they have this instant gratification expectation. So if, we launch 100 new styles on the website every week, so product feedback that's coming through to CX that they get in the inbox, how do we get that back up? Or because they're taking over the customer reviews, right? They're reading the customer reviews. How do we push that back up when we get a customer that's reached out about a faulty item, and then we need to make sure that the vendor knows, submit vendor credits, make sure that we're right on top of the product piece, because product quality is a #1 reason for, in any apparel industry, it's one of the top reasons for customers to reach out if they have an issue with your item. So instead of allowing that to then continue, fixing it, I talk so much about operational efficiencies, and this is why, because then you're going to prevent 600 other tickets coming into your agents about the same product. So hold the product in the warehouse, don't ship it out yet, fix the issues. With marketing, it's the same thing, the user experience, all the other teams that we need to get information to. And, it's important. You mentioned an all hands, like that's a great way to do it. We do have a larger organization, so our all hands meetings, they're once a couple times a year versus, we have executive meetings, we have all hands with leaders, but how do you then also trickle that down to the associates that are working on your CX team? And so I think that's the challenge that we've definitely worked through over the last few years, and it's continued to help kind of build loyalty within customers and across the brand, and overall helped us to retain customers and provide outstanding, world-class and award-winning CX.
Caela?
Yes, I think this is such a great question, because it can be such a challenge to not only get the information from other departments, but to be able to share what you know. And I joke around with my team all the time. I'm like, I know things and I see everything. I'm like, I will hear about it, and because your CX team, you are the backstop of your company. When issues happen, your team's going to hear about it. You might catch things before anyone else even realizes they've happened. And we've been able to see that with things that maybe our analytics aren't catching in time because a bunch of customers came to us first and we're like, well, we're going to go to the right department and tell them. And I think too, it's one of those things that like you have to understand how to work cross-functionally. And it's not just your agents providing the information back and, solving those problems. It's understanding you as the head of your team or the managers on your team, knowing where you fit into it. And, I'm not going to say that I don't have all the answers on that one, but it's a challenge, but it's something you got to work towards, and you got to be able to explain that to the larger part of your team and say, do you have an issue that we can solve? Let's figure that out. Because I think a lot of the times, I know my product team has questions, even my e-com team, like they're just UX questions. And I'm like, oh, we can answer that for you. Like we know these things, but we're not always thought of when it comes to asking someone. So I think it's just, you gotta open yourself up, gotta open your team up to being included in those conversations because it's gonna benefit everybody.
I agree with pretty much everything these guys said. I think on my end, I feel like my whole job is just getting people to cross-share information and like making sure we're rowing in the right direction. So I think to take a step back to what you were saying with like rocks and goals, everyone calls them different things. Like we do all hands once a month. At the beginning of the year, we laid out what are the 5 rocks for the company for the entire year. We go through that every single month. Hey, these were our 5 goals for the year. Nothing's changed. How are we pacing? Then we have the 5 rocks for the quarter, and these are the rocks for the quarter. How are we pacing? So hopefully everyone's really clear on where the company is going and everyone's rowing in the right direction. And then when you kind of take it to the CX side, there's a few different things that we do outside of obviously just doing it all hands, where we go over NPS, we go over positive interactions, negative interactions, feedback we're hearing from the CX team. We have bi-weekly meetings between our head of CX and our head of ops, because there's a lot of operational back-end issues that could be happening, out of stocks, shipment delays. We have issues with lost packages in Canada, whatever it may be. The PD side and the product, PD and innovation, it's really important that those two sides of the business run in lockstep, because the CX team is hearing everything on the ground from the customers. The PD team is usually thinking 12 to 24 months out about what they're building. But if they're not synced and in touch, then they're not really taking the feedback of the customer into account. So for us, that's like really, really important. So we encourage everyone from a leadership perspective to be talking cross-departmental. And then we have an open Slack channel where anyone can make a suggestion, right? So we really encourage everyone on the team, if you have any idea, it can be bad, good, it doesn't matter if it's bad or good, just like make your suggestion if you see something that's interesting. And then we also encourage everyone to, on Glametic, it's called the Glam Fam on our Facebook group. On INH, it's called INH Babes, which is like the Facebook community. And it's really great to kind of see what everyone says in those channels. It's also visual too, because they're posting pictures and video a lot. And so we encourage everyone to jump in there. So there's not any one thing on how you tie the organization together. You've kind of got to do all of these things to hopefully then make sure there's a cohesiveness across the team.
Love it. Last question, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. So we're going to do a bit of a quick hitter lightning round. What I want to hear from each of you is the top 2 qualities that you look for in a CX agent. And then also, do you feel like there's going to be a new quality that you may look for in the future, given the changes that we're seeing in the industry? So I'll start with Caela.
Yeah, I think 2 of the major things that I'm looking for is just authenticity in a person. I think if you have that in your personality, you're just personable, you're open to having just like a silly conversation, that's going to reflect back in the work you do. So I think that's where being able to, like always when we interview agents, I'm like, do you have a dog or a cat? What's your favorite show you're watching right now? Like, it's not serious. It's not about work, but I want to see how you answer it, and I want to just see like how are you having that conversation. And then I think the second thing is, are you willing to continuously train and learn? And I think for me, that's a major part of my life, is always continuously learning and trying out new things. And I think if you have team members who are willing, like, yes, I always want to continue to grow and to learn, that's going to have really a lot of success for your team.
I would say empathy. They have to be empathetic, and the problem-solving skills. I was asked in an interview today, how would you explain CX to a 3rd grader? And I said, we solve problems. So that's really important when we're looking at, and this is across this is not just in CX, this is across the organization. And then the one that I would add, and the one that I'm focused on right now too, is adaptability. They have to be willing to learn, grow, scale with the business. I can tell you that the people that started with us, 4 or 5 years ago, that are still here at Princess Polly, they can tell you have to be adaptable. We've gone from, I was the 5th person brought on board on the US side of our business. For those that don't know, we're originally an Australian-born brand. We came to the US, launched operations, went public in 2021. So we had explosive growth, and being able to adapt through things like COVID. We all know what that brought. We don't need to get into it, but it transformed the business. We were an e-com born brand. We launched the US operation, exploded, and now we're pushing into brick and mortar retail. So while for the last several years, over a decade of being e-commerce, and trying to implement the feeling of an in-store experience but online, we're flipping it. And now we've got to somehow integrate. Kevin mentioned it earlier about the omni-channel experience overall. So, now we need to figure out how do we ensure that the experience that our customers have come to know and love and be loyal to online is consistent within our retail stores. So adaptability.
We do something a little weird. It's what we do. What we do is our one requirement is our customer service team is made up of a previous customer. So we've hired all 2 of our customer service team are actual previous customers. What we do, so we have 2 parts of customer service. We have a brand engagement team, which is about 6 women now, and then the customer service team is 2 people. All 8 of these people are customers. And what I mean by that is what we'll do every 6 months is download all Shopify orders, run a pivot table on who has spent the most money with us on an LTV basis and order count. And then what we'll do is the people who have already given us 5x the LTV that we want from them, we'll reach out to them and see, one, if they want to be on our brand engagement team, and the trade-off is you'll get free product for life. And these people sometimes work like 30, 40 hours, and we don't make it necessary, but they're just there commenting, helping our community grow, et cetera. And they'll just do it because free product for life. And if you think the cost basis of that, it's actually really worth it. And then the second thing we do is, because we're a New Jersey-based office, we'll always look at our New Jersey cohort of that same download on Excel and just kind of reach out personally to these people who are in the area and say, hey, you've been an incredible customer. If you're ever looking for an opportunity to work with Obvi, right, why don't you come and join us? And we've hired both people that way. It's a little weird, I know, but what's better for somebody who can serve your customers when that person is a customer? A lot of the training goes away, but what's also really cool is they know how they wanted to be treated. So the empathy kind of gets built in, but I would say the second attribute is empathy, which is extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, and I'd say proactiveness, problem solving, adaptability, empathy, those are all definitely the traits we look for. I think the thing I ask people a lot in interviews is, what are 2 or 3 things you're currently doing where you're trying to elevate and improve yourself? Because I think that you can tell a lot from a person on how are they, not just in their career, just how are they trying to level themselves up in life. And if they don't really have an answer, I'm a little worried, because that's their life, right? Hopefully they're doing something that, they're working on leveling up themselves. And I think the reality is, to your point, right? You guys went through a lot of changes in 5 years, and you have to be adaptable. But you also want people that are going to level up and hopefully move into new positions in the company over time. And if they're not working on personal development, it's going to be a bit of a mismatch. And so for me, I want people that are hopefully inspired to work with me, and I want to be inspired to work with them. And if I don't feel that vibe, then it's probably just not the right fit for us.
Awesome. Can we give a quick round of applause for all the questions and the knowledge shared? That was awesome. I have the pleasure of chatting with each and every one of them a few times, and every time we talk, I learn something new. So hopefully everybody picked up a few cool things. And we have a few more minutes for maybe 2 or 3 questions for the audience. So if anybody has a question for any of these awesome people, now's the time.
I have a question about difficult customers. So, when I moved to America, it was the client is always right situation. And I own a tennis boutique in Beverly Hills. And there are some customers that are very unkind, I would say, to my staff or mistreat people. How do you guys deal with that type of entity?
I'll start. We have a global customer base, so I have had the experience of, it's so interesting. Australian customers, for those that don't know, they're much more understanding. And they're willing to work with you versus like having this expectation, which I would just say in general, from my own perspective and experience, is more of an American, there's this expectation where the bar is set so insanely high because over time businesses are looking at customer acquisition and retention, and that's what you're focused on is retaining the customer. So you throw whatever you can at them, right? I would say there are many ways that we deal with difficult customers. Obviously, like maybe I'll use an example. Somebody reaches out, I mentioned product quality, right? They say, this is damaged, like, what are you gonna do for me? If we were to tell them and let them know that, sorry, we can't help you, it's what you bought, and the situation were to escalate, that's never something we would do. But in the event that even if they're still not happy because now they have this damaged product, but they're supposed to be wearing it to their graduation, a life event, something that's so critically important to a 18-year-old girl that this is a moment she's going to remember forever. So there's there's sentiment attached to it, and so empathy being what we've all just spoken about is the best way. So figuring out how to integrate empathetic responses into understanding the actual customer, and that's where so much of like the idea of people are scared of AI, because some people fear that you lose that control of being able to ensure that this specific person is taken care of, and it's not some bot or something that's responding to them. But overall, that's how we deal with it. We're empathetic. We say, listen, we know that you're graduating this weekend, you're getting married this weekend, whatever it may be, and having the human element attached to it is like, I understand you. We have a Gen Z demographic, like I said, they expect that. The expectation is so high. So from just how do we deal with it, I would say integrating the empathetic empathy and empathetic responses to those customers.
I think I could add one thing that we did. We have like this one thing of like, don't fight until you have to fight from our customer experience team, which is like what we basically do is like when it comes to refunds or exchanges, which is maybe 60-70% of where challenges come into play, right? So if you take that cohort of people, one thing that we did, which we have the margin to do this, so it's not really applicable to everyone, but we don't make people ship the product back, right? And what we do instead is just, hey, you can keep the product, we'll give you the refund. All we ask, and if you'd like to opt in, is to share this product with a friend or family member that you believe would find it to be useful. And if you share a photo of you doing that with us, we'll also apply a $10 credit to your account. And then we have a 40% opt-in of people using that $10 credit to buy something else again. So you can kind of win back if you had a 1% to 3% refund rate, let's say, right? And your whole thing is to marginally bring that down and constantly battle that down. There's ways to do it that can be a little bit more creative because the fight of, getting that product back or fighting for, not believing in what they're saying, I think isn't always worth it. However, then you have abuse, and that's where you have to fight, where it's like, okay, this is the third time you're doing this isn't gonna happen, and feel free to do a chargeback, and then we have processes there in place. So just one thing that helps us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we kind of take the strategy of the customer's almost always right. So it's not like always right. We try to be very lenient. We give our CX team lots of autonomy to operate, because I think You need to give the team a lot of leeway, or else everything just gets escalated up to the head of customer experience. But I do think there's situations where it's like, look, like might be better for you to go somewhere else. But we try to over-service, and we're really leaning on lost packages or returns. We'll send out new products. We'll add an extra just because product, just in case. But I think to his point, like, it really depends also on your business. And so, like, really based on like the product cost, there's a lot of things that go into it. But I think overall, it's like they're almost always right.
Anything to add,
Yeah,
Kelly?
definitely. I can agree with that. I think that, understanding where the customer is coming from, trying to overserve if you can. Like, there are situations where, won't even get into it, but like, is this a fraudulent situation? You know what I mean? And that's a big thing for all of us, and, something we deal with. So we're like assessing, let's level with this customer, see what we can do. And I think for us, a lot of the time, things when they get to me, especially there's customers who are they're not going to be happy with anything. I try to ask, was there something we could have done, whether on the website, how we communicated with you, that would have made more sense, that would have made our policies clear, that would have made this a better experience? Because sometimes it's like, oh, well, I didn't see that one button on the website that said the info, like something like that. So I'll be like, okay, you tell me, how could we change this? And a lot of times they're like, oh, well, I guess you're going to listen to me. And now it's calmed them down. So I think just listening, asking, what did we do wrong? Because sometimes they're not going to want to, like, if you put them in that place, they don't want to be like, it kind of calms them down. I feel like it shuts them down, puts them like they have to be accountable. And a lot of the time we learn a lot from that, or it de-escalates the situation.
Only other thing I was going to say, what's been interesting the last year, so we've got Glenmedic, and then I have I&H Hair, which I&H started as a consumer business, so similar to Glenmedic. Now we have a professional side, which is selling into hairstylists. And it's a super high LTV because they're continuing to buy your product over and over again. And so it's less customers, but very high LTV. It's just been interesting because that's been a totally different, I don't know what your boutique is, but if it's someone that's coming back again, if it's like a high AOV, it's like we're on FaceTimes with these stylists and like really working through and sorting through their problems. So in that way, it's very much like SaaS customer service, where like if I've got a problem with Gorgias, someone's gonna definitely get on a call with me and like work through it.
It's Roman.
It's but it's just interesting to kind of see the differences between something that's like less customers, super high LTV, and then Princess Policy, or any of us have millions of customers, and on the D2C side, you obviously can't have FaceTimes with every customer. Ron calls every single person.
I actually think that's so interesting, though, because you're right. It's about empowering and making sure that the agents have the tools that they need. We similarly also give our CX agents promo codes to, at any point in time, just feel like whether it's 20, 25, 30%, so that they are armed with something to try and attempt to satisfy in whatever way that they can. If it's a refund at the end of the day and also a promo code, we'll do it. But it definitely, Kevin's right. We have a lot of customers that can get highly escalated at any given time just based on what's going on, and that's probably one of the best strategies if that's aligned with your business.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. We're going to wrap, but I think one thing that was interesting in all of your answers there is the underlying piece of them was empathy. Like really understanding what the customer's going through and then trying to help understand how that happened and then how you have to solve it yourself, whether it's saying no or whether it's putting themselves in their shoes so that you can fix something that maybe got them to that sort of angry state in the first place. So yeah, one more round of applause for everyone. And so Rohan is going to come back up. We have 2 more things in the day with Alex and Roman, who are going to come up here, and then some more workshops, and then everybody gets to network and have a lot of drinks on us. So thank you again.